We have a major Damian Lillard update that could allow the Toronto Raptors to swoop in and start some negotiations for the Blazers' star point guard. So we'll discuss that, including an update regarding Pascal Siakam, Bleacher Report, just hating guys that have been associated with the Toronto Raptors. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's jump to the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is a major Damian Lillard update. Now, for people that haven't been following all the offseason news, Damian Lillard ended up requesting a trade, basically at the start of free agency around the NBA draft, away from the Portland Trailblazers, and he had one destination in mind, one team that he really wanted to go to, and this was the Miami Heat. And his agent basically pulled all the tricks in the book that we've seen other superstars sort of throw out there to the media, throw out there to their teams in order to force a trade to their preferred destinations. Talking about, hey, players, other free agents are going to be watching how the Blazers treat their superstar. The agent directly spoke out to teams, or at least it was reported, saying that, hey, Dame really wants to go to Miami. You don't want to be trading for a disgruntled star. There was even some chatter that he might not report to teams and end up trading them if they're not the Miami Heat. So there's been a lot of sort of behind-the-scene tactics being played by Damian Lillard and his camp and his agent and all that type of stuff. And apparently the league is absolutely done with it. And we've seen a report that come out basically today, and Chris Haynes gives a giant breakdown. We won't read it all verbatim, but basically, the NBA put out a memo saying that if Damian Lillard is out here telling other teams that he won't report to camp, if he'll only go to a team, even though he's under contract to the Portland Trailblazers, he'd only accept a trade away to the Miami Heat. That's the only place he's going to play. That's not going to be accepted by the NBA, and there's going to be disciplinary action if that sort of ends up going down. The league will not tolerate Damian Lillard forcing his way to one individual organization, and that being the Miami Heat in this sort of case, and will be disciplined by the NBA, and it could get to the point where basically reporters come out from Sam Amico saying that I keep hearing the NBA would veto any Damian Lillard trade to the Miami Heat. I don't think that's entirely true, but this is what people around the league are telling me as they foresee. So not something that's a guarantee, not something that's a sure thing that could happen, but the league, if a deal does end up going down between the Blazers and the Heat, it would just get blocked due to all the things that have been swirling around about the Miami Heat, Damian Lillard trying to force his way to that destination, not allowing other teams to have a fair opportunity to acquire him, and basically at the start of all this, right, we knew the preferred destinations, but rarely do we ever see players get traded to their preferred destinations. I mean, Kawhi Leonard wanted to go to the LA Lakers, the LA Clippers, ended up getting there a year after, but he was dealt away to the Toronto Raptors. We were able to capitalize for an NBA championship off of it. I mean, Kyrie's trade requests had 5 different teams. The Celtics weren't one of them, and then you end up getting dealt to Boston, right? There's a lot of trades that have happened with star players where they didn't end up going to their desired spot, their desired destinations. And Damian Lillard, he can do everything he wants, right? He can put out the media, he can put out this, but if he's only going to suit up for another team that he's not currently rostered on, and he's sort of trying to play all the strings just like that, the NBA is just not really going to stand for it. They're not going to allow this to happen. And this is where the Toronto Raptors could swoop their way in. Obviously, no reports have come out about other teams. Apparently, the Blazers have not gained any real traction on any type of Damian Lillard talks over the course of the past month or so since Damian Lillard made that trade request. But if the field opens up, and basically, to bring up this large giant piece of text from Chris Haynes again, apparently his agent is denying the fact that, going out to other organizations and saying Damian Lillard won't report or do this or won't give his full effort. Dame has come out and basically said he will, whatever team he's on next season, he will perform his best. He will get out there on the court, do his thing out there for that team. So the field opens up in terms of different organizations that could trade for Damian Lillard. We broke it down earlier in the offseason. The Raptors have a package that would be very tough to turn down for the Portland Trailblazers when gauging what else is out there on the market. I know the Utah Jazz also have a lot of assets if they want to join the Damian Lillard race, but in comparisons to the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, these other teams, heck, even the Boston Celtics, the Raptors can really outbid these types of guys, especially if the Celtics aren't willing to give up Jaylen Brown. Some might view that Jaylen Brown contract as an albatross that no team would really be interested in, but I think he's still a positive asset, even though he has a big contract there in Boston, right? The Raptors, with a package that could be one of Siakam, one of OG Anunoby, are giant group of young players that we currently have on this roster. I mean, Precious Achiuwa, Grady Dick, they could be sort of thrown into these packages. Again, I'm not super high on trade away Dick, trade away Precious, and I think they have a lot of potential. But if you're acquiring a star, and you're a team that's already dealing with these weird contract issues with, we're not sure if we're going to be able to pay OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, who obviously was just extended, but Gary Trent Jr. is also going to be a free agent. Scottie Barnes' extension is incoming. I mean, if we have all these guys that we're going to play, and you could call them 75-cent pieces, in the NBA superstardom ladder, and we could trade them up for a full $1, right? A couple of these guys, if we're only going to be able to keep one beyond this season, maybe trading an OG Anunoby, a Gary Trent Jr., and some draft capital to acquire a Damian Lillard to get us that point guard, on our roster, give the more opportunity to a guy like Scottie Barnes, who, two other players out of the mix, one other guy into it. I don't know. It could be something to keep an eye out for. Specific packages broken down in the past. I don't know if it would be a tremendous thing to give up too many assets for an older point guard, and would we be a championship contender right away? That's the big question. So we'll see what ends up happening. But the Raptors, don't be surprised to see them swoop into the race, because Masai Ujiri is all about acquiring disgruntled superstars. But let me know what you guys think about the Raptors potentially joining the Damian Lillard race. OG and Gary Trent, as I kind of threw it out. It feels like a lot, but especially with other assets attached. But let me know what you guys think. Next thing we're taking a look at is more details revealed about Pascal Siakam's future. Now, a lot of stuff has been made about Pascal potentially getting dealt this offseason. I just highlighted a bit. The Raptors still haven't really chosen a direction, as we were promised at the start of this offseason, be clear what the Raptors are going to do, but we have a lot of unrestricted free agents and other just regular free agents come next offseason, and we don't really know where the Raptors are headed at this point. And Pascal Siakam maintains on the roster. He's still not extended, right? So there's that uncertainty going on right there. And basically, have an update coming out regarding this whole situation. As Michael Grange, as we saw, right, discussed how the Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, as well as the Orlando Magic were teams that could potentially jump into the mix. However, basically coming from Michael Scotto, this is a recent report that's come out that the Orlando Magic sort of talk is more noise than substance. Recently, the Orlando Magic was the latest team named with Siakam trade interest reported by Sportsnet, but a league source who spoke with HoopsHype called that talk more noise than substance at this time, according to Michael Scotto. So that was a team that I found fairly interesting in potentially joining the just entire Raptors player sweepstakes. They were linked to Fred VanVleet. Obviously, former executive Jeff Weltman, who's with the Toronto Raptors, is down there now, has some ties to Raptors players, this Raptors organization. You get why he likes these types of dudes. But, Siakam being linked there, I mean, they have a lot of sort of forwards at that spot, right? Paolo is there sort of running your four there at that point, right? Wendell Carter Jr. is in your front court. They have some guys. Siakam would definitely be a nice vet to add to that sort of young core group for Orlando, but and really see a big deal going down. I mean, acquiring Jalen Suggs would be a cool piece, but in return for Pascal Siakam, it's not something that I'd get very excited about. So, write the Orlando Magic off as sort of a dark horse that could potentially land Pascal Siakam once the trade talks inevitably hit their roller coaster again. Things happen there. So, let me know what you guys think if Pascal Siakam will get dealt or not this offseason. But the final thing we're discussing in this video is Bleacher Report just coming out here and hating on Toronto Raptors associated players. And this time of year, rarely throughout the regular season am I peeping through Bleacher Report, am I seeing all this stuff. But, especially we're close to August right now. NBA content, there's not a lot of stuff happening around the league, so you start reading more of these Bleacher Report lists, articles, and stuff. And they came out with this list basically saying that ranking the most overrated NBA players. And they had a lot of guys associated with the Toronto Raptors on this list. No direct Raptors at this point, but the first one was DeMar DeRozan, who, again, is someone that I believe has been underrated for years, has been great for the Chicago Bulls. The team just doesn't really make sense at that point, so DeMar's out there catching shade, and then you have Kawhi Leonard at number 4, who is a guy that, when healthy, is probably a top 5 player in the NBA still. I mean, we saw it during the playoffs this year for the LA Clippers. As much as I'm not rooting for the LA Clippers, I'm still a massive fan of Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he's just dominant when he's out there on the court. So calling him overrated is just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Just insanity, really. I get the injuries and all that type of stuff. Maybe his contract, all that stuff associated. But Kawhi Leonard is definitely not overrated. Probably underrated due to the fact he's been injured so much. Then Raptors fan favorite Jonas Valanciunas down with the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, why are we throwing Jonas Valanciunas under the bus here, right? Another former Toronto Raptor added to this list, added to this sort of mockery of an article that's going on right now. JV, death taxes, JV threes. You love to see that. And then a guy that's not a Toronto Raptor associate, apparently we're had the highest odds to potentially land him in the offseason, but got a ridiculous contract from the Houston Rockets. Canadian Dylan Brooks from the Houston Rockets is the second most overrated player. And I mean, I think he's become underrated at this point, with exception of his contract. His contract is extremely high, and maybe is overrated by executives or something along those lines. But 3 former Toronto Raptors, 1 Canadian. The number 1 on the list was Domantas Sabonis, but I don't know. Felt a little bit cheese, a little tacked. A lot of guys that I'm fans of and associated, been close to my heart at times with NBA. I don't like, I gotta defend their honor when Bleacher Report comes out and talks this nonsense. A lot of these vids are probably going to end with Bleacher Report rants for the rest of the summer. So be wary, folks, but you guys are best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Getting very, very close to 30,000 subscribers, so it mean the world if you hit that sub button. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.